You know how Steppin with Marcus J. Thank you so much for everybody that's still with us here live in the Den, Legacy Internet Radio.com, as I mentioned to you guys in the earlier segment. Back joining us here in the, well, I can't say in the studio because he ain't here, but he's definitely with us in spirit on the live line. I got my brother, my partner, my friend, K Dub. What up, bruh?
What's going on, family? How y'all doing? Greetings and salutations to
Hey.
everybody out there.
It's good to talk to you. It's good to talk to you again, man. We gonna throw you right in the fire, and I think you're a sharp brother. I know you can handle getting thrown right into the fire. You can handle that, right?
I haven't prepared, so I gotta get myself together. What's going on out in the world?
You got to get your mind right. All right, here we go. All right, listen, we getting ready to do some what the hell. I know you were listening in the previous segments and stuff, and that's cool. But we're going to do some what the hell, and this what the hell is basically kind of, it's more like what's happening. We already did what's happening. So the what the hells that we doing is mostly stuff that's in the news right now, particularly with some of this GOP versus the Democrat stuff and some other stuff. So we're going to just run through them and see how we looking on time and try to keep you for maybe half hour, 45 minutes at the most. You think you can do it?
Andy, let's do it.
All right, that's what it is. First story I got is I'm getting this from CNN, and I know, Dub, you and I talked about this when we, have our pre-chats as we do from time to time. This one's about the Georgia teen who was found dead, rolled up in some mats at the school. The kid's name was Kendrick. If you just bear with me, I'll find his full name. But Kendrick's body was found head first in a rolled-up gym in Lowndes County High School in South Georgia. The 17-year-old had been reaching for a sneaker when he got caught up in it, then suffocated to death. In other words, it was a tragic accident. That is allegedly what happened. That was what was told to the family. The father said, quote, when they came up with this cockamamie story about how they found Kendrick, right there from the beginning, we had no reason to trust them at all because they didn't show us justice. And so 10 months after they buried their son, the Johnson family says that they just were basically looking for justice. Not to declare the case closed, but, just to find out what exactly happened. So they have the body exhumed to try to maybe have another autopsy done on the body to see what the deal was. And when they exhumed the body to redo the autopsy, they found that all of this young brother's internal organs were removed and replaced with newspaper. Sounds like, whoa. So it definitely sounds like there's some foul play here. So I'll kind of leave it there and let's flesh the story out. Doug, you up first. What's up?
I mean, man, that's downright disrespectful upon whoever took it upon themselves to denigrate this young man's body. I am a resident of Georgia, and I heard about this story a while back, and for some reason, it just kind of struck me as being odd, a number of the things that were being reported. And from what I understand, it's a situation of botched evidence. There was a sneaker that was there that said it had noticeable blood on it, but it was not taken in as evidence to be at least determine who the shoe was, so on and so forth. There were a lot of little things that were overlooked, and from what I'm understanding also is that they're not. From what I understand, that law enforcement is not really pushing toward trying to find out what's really behind the strange death, as well as finding out that the young man's organs were taken out and then his body filled with newspaper. That's just outright that's just disgusting, man. And I think that a lot of people should be held accountable for it, but I render to say that I don't think anything is really gonna come unless it goes federal.
JR, what's your thoughts, man?
Man, I always thought it was something fishy about the story to begin with. It just strikes me as odd as how you are reaching for a shoe and then just get caught up in some mats and
you suffocate.
Right, and they don't find you. Don't nobody know nothing about it, And then I didn't know anything about them replacing his organs with newspaper. I mean, that tells you right there that something's wrong.
That's why
that shouldn't be.
You know, I've never heard this, and definitely foul play with the mats, and so much hurt. When does the pain stop for the parents now to find out that they've gone and stuffed basically their child? So hopefully they get to the bottom of it.
From what I understand, they've reached out to the attorney that represented the Trayvon Martin family, Benjamin Crump, to try to see if they can get some sort of national attention to this story, which is how it got on our radar, because the story is about a year old or close to a year ago that this happened. And when I think about, I mean, they filled the body with newspaper. Like, the first thing that comes to my mind is, maybe the kid was an organ donor, but then I come back for a minute because I'm like, if he's 17 years old and he can't make that decision himself, the parents would have to be the ones to do that. And so even if they thought that was appropriate, they at minimum would have some explaining to do as to where the child's organs went, because you didn't have my permission to do that. And so once I start thinking about that, the answers that I get on that front aren't going to be legitimate. There's no way that those answers are going to be legitimate. So based on what they tell you would lead you to the next question and the next question and the next question. And so I don't know who we're covering for, but someone's hands are dirty. And the unfortunate reality is the police oftentimes has shown precedent for not being quite as concerned about solving the cases of young minority children as they are some other demographics. So I hope they get some sort of resolution here, but I'm not sure that they will, because at this point, whoever may have been responsible for this young person's death may be long gone. Evidence is tampered with and damaged, and just not able to figure it out. So, but we'll see what happens, and we'll follow this story as it progresses. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio.com. I wanted to get that story in, but from here on out, we're going to take a little bit of a political turn. This next story that I've got is from the New York Daily News. The byline says, "Holy War in Harlem, pastors want Al Sharpton out." The prince of the pulpit may have a revolution on his hands. You got 4 upstart clergymen who have invited more than 100 churches to knock Reverend Al Sharpton off his Harlem political throne. Speak Out, Say It Loud, headquartered at Mount Nebo Baptist Church on Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, is a new coalition of black ministers determined to create a unified African-American base with citywide clout. Mount Nebo pastor Johnny Green says Sharpton has neglected the black New York while pursuing national fame and acclaim. While Sharpton is jet-setting around the country, people are going to our churches saying they don't have money to eat. People need somebody to fight for them, end quote. Green, along with pastors Carl Washington of New Mount Zion Baptist Church on West 140th Street, Chris Erskine of Bethany Baptist Church on West 153rd Street, and Patrick Young of First Baptist Church of East Elmhurst in Queens, has planned a large rally on October 24th at Mount Nebo. They expect about 1,500 people to attend. Green and the allies argue that Sharpton has spent too much time plugging his new book, The Rejected Stone, and tending to his MSNBC show. Quote, Sharpton isn't a community organizer, he's a personality. Raymond Blanchett is the head bishop at United Churches for the Kingdom Building. And the insurgent pastors may have a tough time here because of Al Sharpton's national prominence. Of course, we know that he's well tested, and his quote here, we need to attack the issues, not each other. If you want to be the big guy, be the big guy. Be that. Don't act like I'm not doing anything local. I am. I'll leave it there. JR, I want you on this one first. When you hear this, knowing what you know about the good Rev and some of the things that we've seen him do in the past as well as in the present, and hearing what his peers in his hometown are feeling about how he has been performing nationally lately, what's your thoughts?
It seems to me just to be a result of growth. Generally, when someone goes from doing what they do on a local level and then that level becoming a statewide level to a national level, and he's going from place to place. Sometimes home does get neglected, and I don't think it's probably anything intentional, but it's kind of like I would liken it to when people tell Obama, we shouldn't be in Syria or we shouldn't be in these places. We need to fix home, and I would think that he'll probably survive it. He just needs to just focus on home for a little while, and then it'll die down. But I don't think it's much for him to worry about personally.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he has to worry about it at all. And you're right. It is because of growth. The people in the church, I think you said, they're upset. They want him to take care of, I guess, the local area more. They can't afford to buy food or what have you. Am I right?
That was one of the
gripes. Okay. Well, when I lived in New York, I used to say, God, this man again. He's fighting about this. He's talking about that. He did a lot. He did a lot in New York. And again, because of growth, he's moving on. He's got his books. All these things are popular now. He's popular. He's big.
Yeah. Right.
His radio show. I used to listen to his radio show in the mornings on Sundays. I forget what it was called, but
Power Hour.
And I used to listen to that. Makes sense to me. Now he's got books. He had the radio show. He's doing so much. He's just growing. He's expanding. Everybody knows who Al Sharpton is, and I don't think that he is, like you say, purposely avoiding the local area or not doing anything to help the local area. He's brought attention to things that happen in the local area nobody else would touch.
Right. Dub, I'm not sure how much you can hear what's going on in the studio, but I know you heard me set it up. Why don't you tell me what your thoughts are about these pastors in Harlem who obviously have issues with Reverend Al Sharpton?
Well, personally, I think that I do agree actually on both sides of, one side I can understand why those particular pastors may be feeling some type of way in regards to, all the publicity that Reverend Al gets compared to them actually being foot soldiers in the streets. But I venture to ask them, what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they're looking for, Sharpton to do? What can he do as far as actually, and now I understand that with Sharpton's connections, he may be able to be a bug in someone's ear or bring certain things to light, but we also have to understand that at the end of the day, we, and when I say we, I mean individuals that look like you and I, we don't control a lot of things, but on Reverend Al's side, he has in the past been in the, I guess you could say, with his boots on the ground in the streets or whatever, and he's now progressed on to actually be on TV, to be on radio. And you and I both have had conversations about, when you get to a certain plateau, for less of a better word, you get watered down due to political interest, due to financial backing. So, when you see an individual like that progress on or whatever like that, you have to also keep in mind, the powers that be. Again, individuals that look like you and I don't control a lot of things. I think the pastor's all right. He needs to, if he's going to continue to be a champion for minorities, whatever like that, there's certain things that's going on in our inner cities that aren't being brought to light, from education to poverty to the jobless rate. So, and a pressure bust pipe. So maybe these pastors can put a little fire up on the Reverend Al, and he can start to address a number of those things that you don't hear about on a daily basis that you and I and all of us know about.
We're getting a hit from my man Hakeem. What's up, Hawk? It's been a long time since we had you join us. We appreciate
502.
you.
502.
502. That's an inside thing between Hakeem and K-Dub. Hawk says, let's keep it real. They straight hating everyone as an opportunist. If the same fame would have found them, it would be them instead of Reverend Al. Kind of stole a little bit of my thunder there, Hawk. And I also want to remind people of history. Let's have a history lesson here right quick. I mean, we know Reverend Al Sharpton is the preeminent civil rights leader / activist in our country currently. And so whenever there's some sort of issue on a national scale, that's the first person that we think about. What's Al Sharpton going to say? What's Al Sharpton going to do? And for a lot of the people who have issues with him, I'm going to take this in a couple of different directions here. For a lot of the people who have issues with him, I've heard people call him everything from a government informant to a race baiter to a pulpit pimp, ambulance chaser. I've had people tell me that they can't follow him because he wears a perm. All that's nonsense. All that's nonsense and noise. And it very well could also be a fact or the truth. But you know what else is true? If it wasn't for Al Sharpton, you wouldn't have had no justice for Troy Davis. You wouldn't have, not Troy Davis. What's the, Sean Bell, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Sean Bell. Troy Davis was the executed guy in Georgia. My bad. Sean Bell was the kid that got shot up on his wedding day, on his bachelor party up in New York. Trayvon Martin, it was part of getting that going national, Gina 6. So he wasn't the preeminent person for all of those cases, but I think if we sat here and we brainstorm, we can talk about many cases where he had more positive outcomes than negative. You still get people that want to talk to you about Tawana Brawley. You know what? He got duped. She embarrassed him just like she embarrassed everybody in that case. She lied. He believed her. And his name got tarnished. 25 years later, people still talking about it. Let's keep in mind that people didn't like Martin Luther King when he walked this earth. We could sit here and we can celebrate his birthday and third Monday in January. We talk about how great he was. You know what? He smoked cigarettes and had girlfriends. He wasn't perfect, And this is the same dude who they didn't want coming in to their churches. They didn't want him, getting all the people all excited and stuff. My point is, he's going to have plenty of people that's hating on him right now. His own peers. It's easier to stab him in the back than it is to face him, look him in the face, and debate him. So that's what people are going to do. Don't give me this, you're not taking care of home stuff. Don't even give me that, really, because the reality is this is a person who national prominence takes him all over the country, assisting folks all over the country. And that's just the way I look at it. And anybody who disagrees with that, feel free to call me up and debate me. 804-402-2893. I will say this, Dub, you and I talked about this, and I'll have you comment on this, and then we're gonna move on off of this to other stuff. But when we were talking before, I will say that I have been a strong supporter of Reverend Al Sharpton for pretty much my entire adult life as I've watched his career progress. But one thing that I found to be very disappointing is the fact that he seems to have towed the company line over at MSNBC. I've listened to his radio show, his daily 1 to 4 Keeping It Real radio show every single day for years, literally for years. And so when I heard that he was going on MSNBC, I had hoped to see that kind of Al Sharpton go on television. And what I found was a copycat of every single other pundit that they have on that station. The Rachel Maddows and your Ed Schultz's and your Chris Matthews and all of those people, to me, they're just a left-wing version of your Glenn Becks and your, O'Reilly and Hannity. Depending on what side you fall on, you're all gonna, give the information to your minions. So when I saw that he went on TV and he became a part of that news cycle, Dub, I became very, very disappointed because, like a brother who you and I both listened to, Warren Ballantyne, always said, and I found this to be true. I didn't need Warren to say this, but if you listen to them, they all say the same stuff. Like if you start listening at noon, by the time 9 o'clock comes, you're so beat up with the same news for the last 9 hours. It's the same thing over and over again. Dub, what's your thoughts?
I just revert back to Brother Malcolm, and he made an analogy, in one of his speeches when he talked about, putting milk and sugar in your coffee. More and more milk that you get that you put in your coffee, or more and more sugar that you put in your coffee, it gets less and less stronger. It gets less and less stronger. And I think that once, Reverend Al has made it to that national level, he has to cut back or tone down some of the rhetoric, some of the things that were said in his previous years. I do agree with you, in regards to his past, the way people looked at him according to a lot of things in the past. But right now, in comparison, I think that, I wish that he would be able to, have a free tongue, I should say. And to address something that Hawk said earlier, absolutely right. I don't know what these particular pastors are looking for specifically, but we all know that if the tables were turned, they would take full advantage of those same opportunities. I bet money I don't even have.
You don't even have to bet that. And it's funny, I'm not sure if you're following us on social media, Dub, as you talk to us, but Hawk basically just made the same point, saying self-censoring. If they weren't self-censoring, they would not hold that job. Who wouldn't self-censor for tens of millions of dollars? Which speaks to many people who find people like Al Sharpton as government informants, because the fact of the matter is, we know that there's stuff that he wants to say on that TV show that he don't say, because we spent all day listening to him on the radio, and he says what he wants to say on there, but he goes on television and it's a little bit different. So me personally, I got issues with that. I find that a bit disingenuous. I understand that you got a job to do, and that's cool, but it seems like the only civil rights issues that I hear him talking about on the TV show are the ones that have become nationally prominent, where everybody talking about it. So you will kind of be a hypocrite if you didn't touch on it at all. I'd like to see the same venom, coming from him on television as I get on the radio, but at the same time, JR, I'm not sure you can do that, because then they affecting your money. And that to me, it can become a little bit disheartening if we're more concerned about the money in your pocket than the people, if that is what your platform is and always has been. Doug, you sounded like you wanted to get in.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and just, just to kind of address a little bit of a bigger issue, is that what's real disingenuous and what I really don't like is that whenever there's an issue that has to do with black people, I'm not going to say African American, whenever there's an issue, black people, whatever like that, the news media or the media that we tend to listen to, whatever news media that is, they always want to find out they want to get the temperature of the black community. They go to the usual suspects, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, those particular individuals. When did I miss out on something when these were quote unquote the black people's leader? You know what I'm saying? I mean, granted, back when in the 60s, when you had Martin King, you had, Malcolm X or whatever like that, you had that particular person that, you kind of, I identified with the things that they were talking about. But I think that it's a real disingenuous, I think it's a bad service to black people that these particular individuals are looked at as our leader. Like for right now, if there was a situation that had to do with brown people, what have you, who is their leader? And for our Caucasian individuals, who is their leader? I just don't. I look at it. I take a step back and I just wonder, why is it that we have or allow people to deem or tell us who our leaders are? I think we're not monolithic. We all are different, free-thinking individuals, what have you.
Well, leaders. I mean, I think we can agree that leaders, at least in this current climate of the world, leaders are media created. If they deem someone charismatic enough to be able to lead people based upon their persona, you too may become a leader. And that's something to keep in mind, because how often do we see people who we think they're one thing, but then with time we end up finding out that there's something different. And so we should keep that in mind. And we also need to keep in mind, what's most important. You know what I mean? If it's someone who's doing things that we deem to be important, then that's somebody that's a leader, whether they're media created or not. If it's somebody who's doing things and it seems to be to their own benefit, it may take you a long time to get clarity on that, but the reality is, it don't matter how long it takes for you to get clarity as long as you get it. And if you're somebody who's spending more time selling a book and towing a company line on television, than you are, saying and doing the things that got you in that position to begin with, then we need to maybe ask the question, Why is it that it's working out that way? I'm gonna leave it there on this one. Let's continue to move on and get a couple of more things. There ain't no half step on Marcus JJR. I got a couple of stuff from the GOP, from the Republicans, that they've said, the grand old party that they've said and done that kind of made me laugh. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I ain't no damn Democrat. You know what I mean? I don't like the Bloods or the Crips. You know what I'm saying? Blood or cuz. I don't get down with any of them. But my reality is, when you poor and you live in poverty and you fly your Confederate flag and you vote Republican, and you rich and you wear a suit to work and you part of the 1% and you vote Republican, I have a hard time understanding how one candidate fits the needs to both of those demographics. I'll just kind of start there. So the next couple of stories is about how some of these people say and do things that make you wonder, how the hell did you get elected? Like, Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen, who's a Republican congressman out of Oklahoma. He won the GOP House primary in 2012. And he said government needs to have a limited role in our lives. That's typical for what they normally say, right? He explains his concept of said government, which he says has 4 branches. He said this country isn't ran by just one individual. It's ran by 4 branches, but 3 branches that are in control of this. As long as those 3 branches control it, then we have to figure it out how to negotiate. Not all of us are going to get 100% of what we want, but we should do what's right. Now, they don't teach civics anymore, JR. They haven't taught civics probably since before you and I were going to school. But we're generally intelligent people, right? Would you agree that you're a smart guy, I'm a smart guy? Okay, cool. Part of being a smart guy, even though we weren't elected to the Republican Congress in Oklahoma, part of being a smart guy is knowing that, there's not 4 branches of government.
Sound like something Sarah Palin would say.
And we're going to talk about her too. So I don't know, dude. I mean, who are these people?
Man, I don't know. Like, basically, they came into power under the guise of being the Tea Party. You heard all about, there were elements of the Republican Party that was dissatisfied with the direction that the GOP was taking, so they were going to, in fact, form their own party and become the Tea Party. And they were going to represent the true values of what the Republican Party used to stand for: limited government, things like that.
All they are the children of the Dixiecrats. That's all they are.
But but just to be blunt, like a few years ago, you heard Tea Party, Tea Party, Tea Party, Tea Party. Now you hear what we all knew is Tea Party Republicans. They're not. They weren't people who weren't Republican. It's not that they weren't Republicans. It's just that Republican became a dirty word a few years ago because they were doing the same thing that they accused the Democrats of doing, and that's too much spending.
Well, the truth of the matter is, whenever you got Bill O'Reilly going on TV saying that our party is going to suffer and they're going to lose the next at least 2 national elections, the midterm as well as the presidential in the next 2 to 4 years, because of the poor decisions you've heard, seen them make, that's when you want to sound the alarms. I want to move on to another one, SY. We're making fun of the GOP, not so much because we want to make fun of them, but because they make it easy. And the Democrats, y'all ain't no better either. I just ain't come across none of the dumb shit y'all do, but give me some time. Representative Steve Pierce, Republican out of New Mexico, has a suggestion for any of the hundreds of thousands of furloughed government workers worried about being able to pay their bills. He says, quote, "If you're a furloughed government employee, we encourage you to reach out to your financial institution as soon as you worry you may miss a paycheck. Don't wait until you are behind on a bill. Call now and explore your options." He urged these people to take out a loan. Take out a loan. Furloughed employees. That's why. What you think?
Who's paying for it? I missed something.
This dude is suggesting that if you furloughed
You know.
and you're not getting your money because the government is shut down, that you should go to a bank and get a loan.
How stupid is that? You don't have any money. Why don't you go get yourself deeper in debt? See if somebody's going to give you money.
Well, I came to you first because we did the segment on the budget segment. What do you think about this?
It's just stupid. He needs to be slapped with the stupid stick. Such bad advice. Such bad advice. And I know they had to laugh at him. It's just the dumbest thing.
K-Dub, let me get your opinion real quick on the Mr. Four branches of government guy, as well as the you need to get a loan, Mr. Furloughed employee to pay your bills.
Well, both of them, I can say in one statement, they're both asses. You know, first of all, you know, you have an individual that doesn't know civics as far as the branches of government. Second of all, and from when I read that article, I believe he said it, and then, if I'm not mistaken, he said it again.
Yes.
So he was dead serious when he talked about these 4 branches of government. So that right there just shows that, you know, that's an example of a lot of the Tea Party portion of the Republican Party. They were more in tow to gain that particular office because they were against government, but got in there and didn't really have a plan. And obviously, it sounds like he may not even necessarily be qualified with the seat. In regards to the gentleman from stating that people need to get loans,
yeah.
You know, first of all, I believe he's a millionaire. Am I correct?
Billionaire would it be?
Billionaire. Oh wow! And what state is he from again?
He's a congressman from New Mexico.
New Mexico. Yeah, I mean, I would say probably would that be considered a Republican state? I venture to say yes. I could be wrong.
I think New Mexico is Democratic, even though they sit between Texas and Arizona.
Well, that just goes to show right now the individual that's actually sitting in the seat that's basically disconnected from a lot of different sects of what America is made of. You know, what he has to understand is that it's not as easy as I'm just going to go down to the bank and see if I can get a couple of $1,000 loan. And I don't know, maybe if the bank, you know, they're so generous, they would give me this with no problem. You know, that just goes to show his, I guess you could say his touch on the inner city, not even the inner cities, just I'm sure that everybody in Mexico.
Kitchen table talk. Was it Sarah Palin that used that phrase, kitchen table talk, where this dude is so, as to piggyback on your phrase, though, you so out of touch with the average American. The fact that the government is shut down and these people are living paycheck to paycheck, and your solution is to tell them to take out a loan, the same loan from the same banks that were defrauding people just a few years ago at the end of the last administration, and we're in the process of now digging out of that. And you never want to acknowledge the fact that the president that we have right now averted a crisis by getting us out of that debt. You want to send these 800,000 federal workers back into the same problem by suggesting that they go get a freaking loan. JR, what's your thoughts, man?
Man, I'm going to keep on saying it. Conspiracy. Telling you, they want you in debt. If you're in debt, then there's no way that you can support yourself. They want people in debt. They want people to be dependent upon banks and the government. Like, these people that are working for the government now, like, they already, just the ones that I know, are worried about having gas to get to the job that they got to go to, that they're not getting paid for currently. So, you know, when they tell you to go take out a loan, yeah, you go take out that loan. So once you go take out that loan and you get that big check, once they finally reopen the government, you get that big check. How are you going to pay that loan? Because I'm sure Dominion want their money. I'm sure, you know, whatever your cell phone provider, I'm sure they want their money. Daycare want their money. I'm sure your child got schools, field trips, and some more. So how you going to pay that back?
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Keeping with the antics of the GOP and how they don't seem to want to take much of a responsibility for the current state of the country that we're in. You've got Senators Mike Lee and Ted Cruz. Mike Lee's out of Utah. Ted Cruz is out of Texas. They're joined by former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. I told you we would hear her name pop up here. in our show tonight. They were amongst a bunch of protesters who gathered outside the White House yesterday, chanting "Tear Down the Walls," singing "God Bless America" and other patriotic songs as they entered the Memorial Plaza. They were out there protesting the fact that the World War II Memorial on the National Mall has been closed. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, actually 2 weeks ago, when it first happened, and how you had all of those old people, those World War II veterans who actually traveled, had planned to be there, and it just so happened to coincide with the first day of the shutdown, and they were locked out. And obviously, it continues to be locked out. But I want to ask Dub first about the visual of two state senators and a former candidate for vice president of the United States out with the people protesting against the president of the United States. Well, I won't tip my own hand. What's your thoughts, Dub?
Opportunists using war veterans and other veterans or what have you as an opportunity to get publicity for themselves. I think that is self-serving. How about those same representatives? Now, you have to understand is that these individuals are along the lines with the actual group that was a part of the shutdown in the first place. Secondly, you have these particular the parks and museums and so on and so forth shut down, but how about instead of grandstanding with these veterans or what have you, how about for the preschool programs? Programs where the kids are not going back to school. I believe it is pre-K if I'm understanding it right. A number of pre-K students, the kids couldn't go back to their particular classes or what have you. How about think about those particular situations, and also what you may want to also keep mindful if you watched or are familiar with that particular demonstration yesterday. There was also an individual that spoke after Sarah Palin, Ted Cruz, that actually was up there longer than both of them combined, and he was basically and I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, but he was still on the kick that the president was a Muslim and that he was on his knees praying to Allah. And he made a statement in regards to, him needing to put the Quran down and get up off his knees and do this, that, and the third. So, also, how is it that these particular individuals are associating themselves with an individual that's still on the whole thing about the president being a Muslim? And even if he was a Muslim, does that make a damn difference?
No, it doesn't. Well, you know why they do that, because anything that they can say that they can throw at the president that can be perceived as negative will aid them in their plight to bring him down. Of course, we know that the common thought of negativity towards the Islamic faith started in the previous administration. You can say what you want about those people, but we've got extremists in every single culture. It was Christians that was bringing black folk over here into slavery. You know what I'm saying? It was Christians and Protestants that led the Holocaust. So don't even give me this Muslims are an evil people, because that's crazy to me. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. I'm getting a couple more hits in social media. Hakeem is saying, from James Madison, quote, "The country belongs to the people who own it," end quote. They aren't out of touch with the average American. They could care less about them. Check the average wealth of a congressman. Most of them are multimillionaires. It's a big misconception to think that they serve at the behest of the people. Quote from Gore Vidal, "There is one party, and that is the property party." I believe, I don't believe, I totally agree with you on that one, Hakeem. Let's move on. Last couple of things. There's two quick things that I want to kind of combine here into one final. I want you on this one first. That's why I'm getting this one from the Huffington Post. Alan West. We love Alan West. I won't say anything bad about Alan West. Former Representative Alan West. He's a Republican out of Florida. is saying that the president of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, is acting like a, quote, spoiled brat child when it comes to negotiations over the government shutdown. I can put Obama's stance in very Southern basic terms. A spoiled brat child is what he said. That is the quote. If you continue to reward bad behavior, you're going to get more of that bad behavior, is what he said. Then you've got Ben Carson. I'm also getting this from the Huffington Post, who says Obamacare is the worst thing that happened to America since slavery. Neurosurgeon Ben Carson says Obamacare is the worst thing that happened to America since slavery, as he's speaking at the 2013 Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. He says, quote, Obamacare is really, I think, the worst thing that has happened to this country since slavery, and it is, in a way, it is slavery in a way, because it's making all of us subservient to the government, and it was never about health care, it was about control, end quote. Carson has also made other shocking comments in the past, once calling white liberals racist, saying they are the most racist people out there. They put you in a little category, a little box. You have to think this way. How could you dare come off the plantation? End quote. Yeah, Ben Carson said that. So Ben Carson says that Obamacare is worse than slavery, and Alan West says that the president of the United States of America is acting like a spoiled brat child. What's your thoughts on those two comments?
I immediately think of Ruben and his little phrase for people when they just say something or do something stupid.
Natural selection.
Yeah. I really don't know what else to say about the stupid comments about Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. I just think, again, as we keep saying, it's because his name is attached to it.
Yeah.
It's just being enforced. His name is attached to it, and that's that. What was the other one? That one was so stupid, it just spin my head.
Obamacare, that was the Ben Carson thing. Alan West says during the negotiations, the president of the United States of America is acting like a spoiled brat child.
Well, I'm going to say this. This is my opinion. I watched some of the reports on him since the shutdown, and it's being said that he's not being forceful enough. The same way as it was when he was running for election. And in some ways, I believe, or I feel that he's really not, I don't want to say putting his foot down, but he's not being as rough as the rest, and I think he can speak up a little harder, say what you mean what you say, and let everybody feel it. Same thing he did when he was running for election. He was very meek and mellow, and they have to talk him up a little bit to push him out for the last debate. I don't know.
JR, what's your thoughts?
Well, in reference to the spoiled brat child thing, here's the thing. People voted on it. Mm-hmm. It passed. Went to the Supreme Court, sailed through there. I mean, it's the law of the land. To me, you have the Republican Party, and they're saying that we don't want Obamacare. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, I listen to conservative talk radio. I mean, I just love hearing what they have to say. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I could care less about either party. If it was up to me, all of them would be lined up. We would do away with all of them, every last one. But it's not up to me. So, he set out, the people have spoken on this. Now, instead of the Republican Party coming back with something to offer the American people, they're not offering anything. But the spin that you hear is the president won't budge. But they're the ones who haven't budged at all. I mean, they literally have not budged at all. So now what they're doing is they're cherry picking. They're taking the Veterans Memorial thing and they're saying, oh, this is Obama's fault. Well, put something to a vote in the House that supports what the people have already said they wanted to support. Put something together that supports that. But they won't do that. They're basically cherry picking these stories that tugs on Americans' hearts, because most people have someone who served in the military, so that they kind of see these old people, some with debilitating injuries from World War II, and it's heartbreaking to see that they can't come together and do that. But at the same time, it's just as much the Republicans' fault as it is the Democrats' fault. So
I think
they all share some
I think
of the
when you
blame.
look at the polls say that the American people, and I know it doesn't matter who blames who and all of that kind of stuff, but the people get it. They can try to drive the message all they want, but the people get it, and the people know that it's the right side that is in large part the reason why we're in the situation that we're in, because of the prior administration, because of the opposition they're creating for the current administration, and because of these obstructionist tactics that they put on to try to keep this president from doing the things that he's doing to help us progress. Kato, I'm going to let you get your comment in, and then I'll take the final word.
I mean, most of them, I look at it like this. I'll take it from a whole nother direction. Alan West, former congressman, I believe, or senator, former politician.
Congressman. He was a congressman.
He's going to, of course, what's going to happen if he talks, of course, bad against the president or whatever, it gets the headlines. Ooh, another black man talking bad about the president or what have you. Let's go ahead and put that out there, and that goes the same for Dr. Carson as well. When whatever group or whatever he talks bad about, if there's a group or someone that has that same interest, they'll go ahead and put that out there like, oh man, the Green Bay Carson said XYZ. I mean, listen, man, let's understand something about, let's talk about the Affordable Health Care Act, is that, everything isn't going to be perfect about this particular bill. I kind of have issues with the fact that you have to, if you don't decide to opt into the program or what have you, there's a tax that's applied to you or what have you. In certain situations, it may be less for the individuals. I'm not sure. That's your own personal opinion. But everything is not going to be gravy about this particular act. So, people need to understand that we need to do our own research and find the things that are good for you and your family. It's not all, of one size fits all for everyone. And that's what I think a lot of politicians think that it is out in society. It's a one size fit all. They try. I've heard reports saying, the American public doesn't want this bill, and I think it's one of those situations where you said earlier, where if you hear it enough during the day, you start to believe that. But then if you do your own research and let's just say looking at the past election, with the president winning by the margin that he won, and a lot of other things that speak toward people wanting this particular program, and they're saying that it may not have even gone far enough as far as what the American people really wanted. It just, I don't know, man. I'm just frustrated with a lot of this information that I'm getting pumped with every day.
I could dig it, man. Here's the thing. I'll take the last word, and we'll take our final break, and then we'll close out with our rants and our closings. First of all, Alan West saying the president is acting like a spoiled brat child, like that is so egregiously disrespectful that I don't even really know, how we get away with speaking this way to or about the president of the United States. You know what I mean? Like, where is this level of respect that we should have? We understand that you don't agree with him politically, and you don't agree with the tactics, but when you go and you say something like that, that's just crossing the line. That's the first thing. The second thing is, comparing slavery to anything, to me, that's where you crossing the line. You don't compare anything to slavery. You don't compare, politics to slavery. And blaming the president of the United States when the people wanted this is trivial, because basically it makes it seem like, this trickery that's going on with these bloodsuckers, the many bloodsuckers. Let's do a little bit of, some Latin here. Politics, many bloodsuckers. The stuff that's going on with the Bloods and the Crips. In reality, you got to move forward. You don't agree? Okay, it passed. Let's move on. Some people might get left out as far as, the healthcare thing. But see, here's the thing with that. As far as the tax dub that you just mentioned, you got to pay a tax to the DMV in some states if you don't have auto insurance. You know what I mean? You got to pay for that. So you're not getting over. So I don't know that I would have that be one of the things that would keep me. And if you really want to get to the bottom line of it, let's talk about how we can change the tax codes. You want to redistribute money? You want to try to get some money back into the economy? Redistribute the tax codes. How about the big businesses that don't pay the proper percentages of taxes at all? And these companies, these businesses, they get personhood. You know what I mean? So I really don't understand how these bloodsuckers can act like, the people shouldn't be driving the discussion. And that's the sad thing, because a lot of these people know better. Somebody like Carson, and obviously somebody like West, who sat in Congress, should know better. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. I'm going to leave it there, K-Dub. We're going to have to let you go, my brother. We're getting ready to end out the show with our rants and our closings. But before we do that, why don't you give the listeners your final words, my brother?
Peace and love to everybody, man. Peace and love to everybody back hometown, Jersey City, and everybody that can hear my voice from VA to GA. One love to everybody, peace.
That's what it is. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to take our final break of the night. We come back, we got our rants and we got our closings. Marcus J, K-Dub, SY, and your main man, JR, the soon-to-be daddy. And you, the listeners. We'll be back in just a few minutes with our rants and our closings.